go throughout APHA that would, I think, be a blessing for all of us here this morning?
Well, first of all, I'm Geechee. I love that. I spent the first 18 years of my life speaking Gullah. And the village that I grew up in, we are the descendants of the first black regiment in the Civil War.
Oh.
So we've been fighting success for generations. I grew up in a very different environment from other people because white people were theoretical to me. I knew they existed out there someplace, but I never had to have real contact until after I finished college. So my frame of reference is very different. And also the time in which I came out in the 60s. I know it's hard to believe. We thought we were going to have a revolution. I mean, we literally thought we were going to have a revolution. It's absolutely insane now that I think about it now. But anyway, but your environment and your history makes a difference. So many of us don't know what our history is. 80% of African Americans, almost all of you in this room perhaps, landed on one small island on the coast of South Carolina. If you were to ask our group of Irish people what island did they land on, they'll tell you. Jews could tell you. Italians could tell you. But if you were to ask an audience of African Americans, you'd be lucky to find 2 people who knew the island that 80% of our ancestors landed on. Now,
which is?
Oh, Sullivan's Island. Yeah, it was where the slave ships landed. Yeah, they had to wait for 2 weeks to see if they had smallpox or whatever, and then it was shipped off to plantations around the United States. But the big point is that we got to look at your personal history and how you might use that to strengthen you. Because when you're confronted with stuff, you have to stand up. I spent last night in jail.
Oh.
No, it's cool. I had a great time. I had the opportunity to see brothers struggle. You know, when I first got in, I was a little pissed off because it was, you know, an administrative problem. But as I spent time with those brothers last night and see what they had to deal with, not racism by European Americans alone, but racism by African Americans in power over these young brothers in jail. There is still a lot of work to do. There's no lack of work, and there's no lack of reasons for us to work. It's still there. And we need to have those kinds of experiences. I recommend going to jail. I think I haven't been to jail since I went with John Lewis. He sat in this restaurant in 1964, I think it was. And I had forgotten what that experience was. I think the experiences that we have also provide us with the motivation to keep going.
So really quickly, we're getting the
Yes.
let's wrap it up. So we can just
embrace challenge. I just wanted to say that I'm internally motivated. I unfortunately have that workaholic thing going on, but I can never feel like it's just a Chandra thing. I feel like I'm constantly aware of how many people's shoulders I'm standing on and how people I might not even realize it have advocated for me in ways that I don't even know. And so I just feel like there's a sense of responsibility and obligation and gratitude. And at the same time, I'm also reminded of something that the late Steve Wing told me years ago, which was that the disparities that we're talking about are not abstract. And, you know, I can think about in my own life the ways that these disparities affect, you know, my well-being, that of my family and people I love. And I feel this urgency to get the work out because I don't know how long I'll be able to do it, you know.
I think, yeah, so because we go home to disparities, you know, my father just had surgery for prostate cancer just last month. When I was a postdoc, my grandfather died of pancreatic cancer. So these things aren't detached from us, but I think the switching point for me went from studying these social determinants to actually trying to figure out ways in which we can change them. Is that we had this nutrition, physical activity education program at some of the elementary schools in Michigan. And one of the girls, she didn't have a ride home, and I just didn't feel, I don't have kids, but I didn't feel comfortable her walking the 2 miles home by herself. And the next day, she told all her friends, yeah, Miss Rebecca walked me home because she didn't want me to get raped. And I never said anything about her getting raped, but I was thinking about, so is this what she thinks every time she walks home by herself? And you read all about neighborhood safety and how it affects physical activity behaviors, but just to hear her say that, the data like very much came alive. Or we have these other kids that think ketchup is a vegetable, and you kind of snicker, hee hee ha ha, but then you realize, like, and you look at their dietary records, and they haven't eaten for the last day and a half because they didn't have access to food. So seeing food insecurity like right in front of you, and as a researcher, there's nothing I can do about that, but what can I do? And I can try to do it through my research, but I cannot just continue to study this problem. I have to find, whether in my own free personal time or through the interventions, take that money from the NIH and feed it back to the community so that we do have policies that affect children's lives on a grand scale. I mean, I can affect these individual kids that are in our research projects, but I mean, the motivation I have is, you know, can we get the USDA to, you know, I just love Michelle Obama, but a lot of the policies that she implemented for nutrition programs, they're being rolled back. So what can I do to help make sure that those health policies stay in place or new health policies are developed?
So if everyone can just join me in giving another round of applause. On behalf of the current SAAPHI governing board, we'd just like to say thank you so much for your participation. And they will be around, so feel free to ask questions, engage. They told you they want to talk, so make sure you take advantage of that. Thank you. Thank you.
Good morning. I just want to do our obligatory social media plug. So if you're using social media, follow us on Twitter and Instagram. We're using the hashtag